because things change. And so if you don't reinvent the process, you will be left in the dust. If you have a leader that can run a team and run a company successfully, you can bring people up that may not have had opportunities and make them A, B, and C players, right?
Every entrepreneur that I've ever encountered, they always have some interesting story of how they overcame obstacles to become an entrepreneur. I saw your journey. You started in the corporate role and you've been running a full service Amazon agency for the last 22 some plus years.
Yep.
So you've been at this for a very, very long time. So I'm sure you had some interesting story of how you got started. So can you give a synopsis of how that journey started?
Fair enough. So I spent 10 years in corporate America, ended with JP Morgan Chase. I've been in multiple different banking sectors. And one thing I realized in that is the corporation only cares about itself. And so being able to move forward, being able to navigate my own journey without it being controlled by someone else is very, very difficult. And so I got tired of having someone else dictate what my next steps were. If I'm going to fail, I'd rather fail myself versus a company telling me that I'm no longer valuable.
So that led you to want to start on your own. So what was kind of the genesis of starting this company that you run today?
So the genesis was like, it was always like a back project. It was sitting behind the scenes of like, let's try to build this. Let me try to make some extra money. Like what's actually out there. Because again, working for corporate America, great. But I think I can drum up some money. Money sits everywhere. Like it's a matter of, do you have enough drive, ambition to move forward? And I had a little bit of it, but I was also enjoying a corporate paycheck. And then as my job got eliminated just because of like a downsized merger, then I'm like, well, okay, it's time to move on. Like I'm done doing this. Like I need to control my own destiny. And I'm tired of the amount of money I'm making for the company being so nominal. And I could have made a lot more money if I bounced from company to company to company, because that's the only way you really make money in corporate America. You don't make it staying with the same company like you used to back in the day. And I didn't want to be that person. Like I'm going to control my own destiny and I'm going to move forward and do it myself.
And then apart from the uncertainty of what's the future look like, what were some of the other reservations before getting started?
Oh, it's scary as hell. Like when I told my wife what we're doing, she's like, are you sure? At this point, we had one kid. We have 4 now, but it's like, what does that look like? I'm like, well, I don't know, but I'm confident I can move forward. I'm confident that I can make enough for us. And I want to see us grow as a family with freedom. And I also want to make sure that no one can tell me moving forward that my job is eliminated or merged or whatever because of some corporate policy.
Now, looking back almost 22 years ago, were you envisioning where you are today when you got started, or what was kind of that immediate vision of what the future could be, apart from obviously the freedom?
I have no idea. Like, because a lot of this ran, I mean, I've been full-time for 10 years. I don't know what I expected. But what I've told people, like, if you could redo your life and you could like change things and do things and go back, what would you do? Like, I would have started being an entrepreneur way sooner because this is the opportunity where capitalism wins. And I believe in capitalism. I believe in the growth of America. I believe in employing people. I think it's a horror. 36 people I think we have on staff right now, and being able to provide for them and their families, and like being able to grow and do something different, and also for my values to be able to be transcended to them and allow them freedom and opportunity that they may not have had going elsewhere.
So you've certainly, like you said, you believe in capitalism, you built something, right? Entrepreneurship is all about envisioning something that is possible and creating it almost out of thin air, right? Like somebody's vision comes to reality, and maybe it does take a decade sometimes to come to that. And oftentimes people see that your success right now, and then they're going to say, oh, I want to be successful. How can I do this overnight? But it doesn't.
The thing of the decade you say is we've reinvented our business 4 times over the last 10 years because things change. The climate changes. And so if you don't reinvent the process, you will be left in the dust. And so the team's always like, well, what's tomorrow? I'm like, I don't know. We'll figure out what tomorrow is. But we have to keep thinking and moving in a progressive standpoint versus being behind the 8 ball. If we sit in one area, we're going to lose.
I mean, I tell this to entrepreneurs myself when I'm actually seeing them being super comfortable in where they are and not necessarily challenging the status quo, and they're just like floating or kind of coasting. And I kind of challenge them to do that. I also seen, like, I think if you listen to Gary Vee at any point, he actually tells, like, you should put yourself out of business in your mind of what could go wrong to take me out of business tomorrow. And what am I going to do to prevent that from happening, right? Like, so you can proactive as opposed to being surprised. I mean, things like COVID, somebody couldn't have imagined, but things like innovation in the marketplace, new ideas that are coming into place, right? Like, how is that going to impact my business what could I do to prevent that, or at least to be more proactive in how am I going to face that challenge.
Yeah, because the business we had 5 years ago to the business I have today they're night and day different. They're a completely different business. We took the same team, but we pivoted on what we saw the marketplace going toward.
Yeah, can you give some example of what were some of those changes you had to make?
That's fair. So we were selling on Amazon as a third party, which means that we were buying product from like distribution and selling on Amazon. And we saw that change where brands and manufacturers were no longer going through distribution and they're selling directly themselves. But we had a very good relationship with a lot of brands. And so from being a third-party reseller and distribution, we've gone to them and said, hey, what if we help you build an Amazon store? What if we help you build your own presence on these marketplaces? And we take our 20 plus years of experience and move you forward. And that was a big pivot. So if you ask us 5 years ago, we only sold third party. Today, we sell maybe 5-10% third party, as just to keep lights on for some parts of it, and also a playground for us to figure out what to do. And the rest is going toward helping brands and manufacturers build a brand and presence on Amazon they wouldn't have had before. And we're also very in depth in what's going on, from like listing optimization to whatever. So we're able to add significant value, not just being people, but adding the experience and context we have.
Yeah, so obviously that was a big challenge you had to overcome. What were some of the other challenges as an entrepreneur that you faced as you were trying to build this company?
People are always hard, and meeting expectations, missing expectations in some points, right? And finding, like, I have a passion, I have a desire to move in one way, but being able to bring people alongside that vision that help collectively move that is really difficult. I mean, there are some like random other things, but I think if you can have a team rally around you, that's the most important part, and you can get through anything as a team. You can overcome most any obstacle.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously everybody knows that, if you have A players playing on your team, you're going to win the game, right?
You don't have to have A players. You can have C and D players, but if you invest in them, it changes everything. So like recently I've been watching the Michael Jordan documentary, the 90s Bulls, right? Scottie Pippen, good player, only became better with Michael Jordan. And then Michael Jordan made the whole team better, just from his presence and his coaching and his leadership. But when you go downstream from a payroll perspective and someone's skill set, the Bulls weren't that great independently as each individual player. Granted, we look at this now and go, well, what about Dennis Rodman? Let's look at Scottie Pippen. But we had a leader that helped made all of them better. And so you don't have to have A players. If you have a leader that can run a team and run a company successfully, you can bring people up that may not have had opportunities and make them A, B, and C players, right? And so I don't think I actually don't like hiring A players. I don't, because they typically come with attitudes, they come with entitlement, they come with, it's my way or the highway. I'd much rather bring someone in that has, I call it fire in the belly. Someone that has a desire to work, and let's train and build that aptitude, versus someone coming to me and telling me, like if I had someone come tomorrow and said, I've run an Amazon agency for 10 years, I know exactly what I'm doing, I can help you build your business, I would actually say no, because you're coming in with arrogance. Versus someone going, I don't know, but I'm hungry to learn. My best team is the team that has come from the bottom and worked their way up through the whole process. So I know there's different ways of doing that, but that's my personal perspective. I'd rather bring someone in that has fire in their belly than someone that has knowledge and arrogance in their mind.
Yeah, obviously there's a concept of like the will versus the skill, right? Like people, like skill you can teach, but if they don't have the willingness to work, it doesn't matter what you do. They're just not going to put the energy into it.
For sure.
But there's also that other side of it, right? I've heard people say like, the best players want to play in a team that they know they're going to win, but they don't want to be playing in a team that they know
that's fair.
Their players aren't trying hard enough. So there's that risk of, bringing in junior players that may or may not have the skill. And then you have like this A player, maybe they have the will and the skill, but they're just playing with a team that they know they're just not going to have a shot at winning. And then they just start to find another opportunity because I'm like, hey, I don't want to be part of it. So do you think you risk that by bringing in, maybe players that does require a lot of hand holding and training to get to a level of being able to win a championship?
It's possible, but I also look at it kind of as baseball or hockey, right? They have single A, double A, triple A, and you have these seed organizations that help build something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been actively trying to bring people in 2-3 years ahead of when I think I'm really going to need them, and we start building them up to be a better player. Because I mean, unlike like baseball and hockey are the two ones that have big farms that come in that feed them. Basketball comes in from college, football comes in from college, right? There's not a lot of seed organizations that sit there, but I see us as a company that has single A, double A, triple A, and we're bringing people up, and then we start tapping on the shoulder saying, okay, it's time, we're moving forward.
Yeah. So when you say, I want to find somebody who has got fire in their belly, like what do you look for to see that drive, and how do you identify those skills?
I'd probably say my first thing is arrogance. If someone comes to me arrogantly telling me what they know, what they can do, who they are, no. If someone comes to me and says, I have a desire to learn this, I'm trying to do these things, I want to kind of get here, like someone that desires growth versus coming and telling me how awesome they are. Because I worked at JP Morgan. I mean, most of banking is sales, right? Like the goal is to sell something. When I was in banking, I hired people that had that fire in the belly for sales. Like I wanted the people that cared about themselves almost more than someone that cared about the person, because they were hungry for money, right? We still had guidelines in place to make sure they weren't just doing what Wells Fargo did and gave people accounts that they shouldn't have, right? So because I audited every account, I met every client that came in, and it was very personal for me, but I wanted someone that had that drive and motivation to move forward, where I think as an entrepreneur, if you have that person's only going to be there for a little bit of time. That person, as an entrepreneur, you need someone that's going to walk alongside you for a long season versus a flash in the pan of someone that can give you something right now and they're going to walk away. And when they walk away, they could take their part of your clients, they could take part of your relationship. And so when I look for someone with fire in their belly, it's someone that has motivation, I can walk alongside and grow, versus someone that only cares about themselves.
So obviously people is a big ingredient
sure.
in the success. What other challenges you faced in terms of building the company to where it is today, apart from just having to pivot based on the market conditions?
I would say for us specifically, because we do sell on marketplace, is constantly having to navigate the changes that happen within that ecosphere. I can talk about Walmart, I can talk about eBay, Target, all the other ones. Amazon's a big player. And Amazon is consistently changing the game. They change metrics. They changed, the big one that just came out right now was all the different FBA fees. And so now we're having to look at, okay, so we used to do it this way. How do we do it moving forward? So it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Like for us as Amazon, it could be in real estate, which right now interest rates are significantly higher. It could be in rentals, or like it could be in selling commodities, right? Like import taxes. Like when you deal with what happened during COVID, and all longshoremen were on strike, and you have hundreds and hundreds of containers sitting out in the ocean. There are variable factors, but the thing I think matters most is you as an entrepreneur have to think through what could happen and being able to adapt really quick. And so when, for us, the Amazon fees came out, we made adjustments within 12 hours with all of our clients to let them know, this is what the change is. This is what we should be looking at. Based on these new fees, this is the cost it's going to cost you. And so what do we do to help reduce that cost? And so I'm a big believer of the first mover to be as successful as industry changes. So very similar, like I have a few friends that when longshoremen stood up in California, they thought quick enough and they moved most of their stuff to Dallas because they knew Dallas, the port in Texas was going to be open. So they moved everything over to Texas, and they were able to get products and goods into the US faster because they saw something ahead of time. But they also had logistics set up ahead of time for that to be an option. And so you have to think through, what if these 5 things come out tomorrow for me as a business, what could put me out of business? And if you don't think through what could put you out of business, when they come, you're going to be blindsided and you can't catch up fast enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of pre-planning and thinking through scenarios and even coming up with contingency plan, right? On how to deal with it. So obviously you've touched on a couple of key areas where you had to evolve as a business, but how did you as personally evolve, being in the corporate world, hiring and training people and managing people, to being the boss, coming up with the vision of the company, building building products and also winning customers and doing all of those things. How did you evolve as a business, as you started to build a business? How did you evolve personally?
I think the big thing for me was my wife. When you come from a steady paycheck, a corporate lifestyle, that's comfortable. But there's been a lot of struggles. I feel like I put out dumpster fires daily sometimes, like all these things going on. But being clear and being able to talk to my wife and be like, this is what I'm going through, this is what's happening, and being able to bounce it off her has been really, really good. And also her walking alongside, because when I feel what's going on and she understands what's happening, that allows us to communicate better. Because if my wife's not on my team, if I can't hold hands and we can't stack hands together as a married couple, the ability for this business to succeed is next to zero. Because there's infighting, there's frustration, there's not the support, because no one knows me better than my wife. Literally nobody. Really good friends, but she can help challenge me, and there's things that she's said and things I've implicated or done because of what she said. And so I'd say first is having a partner in the process. The other part of it is not being arrogant. I don't know everything. I'm pretty confident what I can do, but also I defer to my team often with questions. So my operations manager, there's times I'm like, okay, I'm seeing it this way. What do you see? But if I came at it where I'm the boss and I know everything, just because I own the business, that's not helpful. And so I defer often. And I think me deferring allows a lot of opportunity for the team to continue to grow and feel that they trust leadership and that I care about their opinion.
So basically the having some sort of a personal companion that you can share kind of your pain and your suffering and also your wins, and then as well as having other people that you can entrust and delegate responsibility to see them rise up to that challenge. And I think, like you said, like a lot of times we as entrepreneurs, little bit, I wouldn't say as arrogance, but we just kind of strong personality. We have strong opinions. We come across as if we have some solutions, and oftentimes that shuts other people down. And they just kind of like, oh, take your idea and then let me just go run with it. But actually calling them out and saying, hey, what do you think in this scenario? That gives other people an opportunity to think innovative solutions that you may not even have thought about before.
And some of my worst mistakes are when I thought I knew the answer. And so even though I think I know the answer, I've learned over the last 5-7 years to ask the team, like, I'm looking at this. What do you see? Am I missing something? Because they touch different parts of the business than I do, but not being that the know-it-all arrogant boss that I can make the decision. Sometimes I can't. Yeah.
And I think it's certainly, like you said, like the humility is across the board is a very good character to have that helps in relationship with your spouse, and then also definitely to build a company, and even sometimes trying to deal with your customers. Sometimes you kind of need to have a little bit of sense of humility and just acknowledging your shortcomings and actually trying to find ways to mend situation for sure. So what are some other key lessons would you say as building a company that you would give us entrepreneurs, apart from like, hey, don't sit around, like you said, if you had to do it again, you would have started earlier. What advice would you give other entrepreneurs in terms of entrepreneurship, getting started with some sort of a business idea or something?
I think the one is educate yourself. And what I mean by that is like podcasts, books, docuseries, right? Like the world is so full of content right now, where if I go back 15, 20 years ago, the content wasn't nearly as rich as it is today. And so hearing stories, like for me, I spent a significant amount of time reading the documentaries of almost every successful person that had either autobiography or biography, from Steve Jobs to Jeff Bezos to Elon Musk's book, I think just recently came out. That's what I'm looking forward to Warren Buffett, to Bill Clinton, to, like, it doesn't really matter. Like, just reading stories and going, okay, that was a win, that was a loss, that was a win. But seeing the stories of what people have done, I think make you much more prepared to be an entrepreneur, because you get to see their strengths and their weaknesses. And so I just say more content, but be careful of your content, right? Like, this podcast is going to be good for some and not good for others, but finding the areas that make the most sense for you, especially maybe in a vein that you care about, and watching the businesses that have failed because of arrogance, watch the businesses that have failed because of misunderstanding, and then also seeing the incredible strengths of leaders and what that is that's got them to where they are.
Hmm. And what percentage of your learning is usually kind of the business, the type of content around like operations, leadership, and versus kind of like learning about somebody, like a biography of a person?
I'd probably say 30% is probably like when I look at my time spent watching
Hmm.
content, right? 30% is probably stuff I enjoy, like
Hmm.
stuff that I can just decompress with, right? I love documentaries. I love docu-series. Like that's
Hmm.
something that I really enjoy. I probably spend 30 to 40% of my time there.
Hmm.
And then the other part sits on like content that I'm looking for specifically. Like I'm dealing with this, or like for me on Amazon, I find people that have done it really well, or maybe have addressed a specific issue. So that's YouTube. That could be, I guess mostly YouTube is trying to figure
Hmm.
out, okay, what am I missing? What am I doing?
Hmm.
Also spending a lot of time on AI and trying to
Hmm.
figure out, asking questions with AI, like what is this?
Hmm.
But then not only taking that at truth, then I take that and then I move it over to validate the truth of what it comes out.
Hmm. So based on kind of what you described as your research process of trying to find answers, how would you recommend other entrepreneurs to probably helping other entrepreneurs find the answer by creating content? What would you kind of recommend to them? Like what, based on your personality and how you go research and find answers?
How to find answers or how to make
So
content?
basically, like for example, right, you are stuck with a problem, and you go to
Mm-hmm.
Google to find answer, or you're going to go to maybe ChatGPT to try to find the answers.
Yeah.
By you searching the topic, somebody else had to have created the answer first,
Yep.
so that you're getting that person is getting found, and you're discovering them as an expert to solve that problem. And someday you might choose to do business with them because of the fact that they gave you the insight that you needed. So based on that, how would you recommend entrepreneurs to solve the problem for people that are actually looking to solve the problem that he or she can
That's
solve?
fair. I don't think you can solve a problem unless you have a base. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would actually push people to spend a good amount of time in autobiographies, biographies to have a
Mm-hmm.
base.
Mm-hmm.
Because even as a JP Morgan, I had a 2-hour commute each way. And so I'd
Mm-hmm.
spend an hour of that commute reading biographies and autobiographies. And I think that gave me a very good base of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, it allows me to like hive off and think through different things. But like there's a situation going on right now with the company that it's actually significant for one of my teams, but I'm able to pull back from 2 different books I read 10 years
Mm-hmm.
ago, going, well, if this happens, this is going to happen. If this happens, that's going to happen. And so I can
Mm-hmm.
take the wisdom I've learned from a significant base of knowledge from people that have been successful. Because the other thing is making sure that it's not just digesting content, it's digesting content that has like a backbone or a base, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so having that has made it significantly easier for me to make decisions. And then I fill in the gaps. So like some people say, like I have dinner and then I put ice cream on top because ice cream melts and fills in all the holes, right? I feel like all the other added content is the thing that fills in the holes for me specifically. And
Mm-hmm.
so taking in heavy content and then allowing other pieces to fill in where I may have had a gap.
Mm-hmm. My struggle is the execution of it, right? Like a lot of head knowledge, so oftentimes doesn't necessarily have an immediate application, but then you kind of lose track of whatever that learning is, but you still fail to execute because you didn't really practice. So is there some sort of a best practices on how you go about, like maybe if you're doing audiobooks, writing some of the action items or takeaways, and then you're trying to actually regurgitate and figure out how do I apply this to my business or my
Yeah,
life?
yeah, for sure. So I have a big blackboard. It's
Mm-hmm.
whiteboard, but it's black, so I use white markers. It
Mm-hmm.
is what it is. But I'll put the things on there that I want to think through or that I think are challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do believe from any good book, you get probably 2 to 5 good takeaways, at least for
Mm-hmm.
me, highlight, underline, and what do I do with that? And so being able to take that data, put it on a board for me to think through, what do I do with this data now? How do I handle it? What's the next step for me? Because practically, I mean, you can be book smart, right? You can go to college and you can get your MBA, you can get your PhD in business and strategy with
Mm-hmm.
never running a business.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a lot of understanding, but not practicality.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're actively walking through as an entrepreneur, running a business with a team, being able to take that education and seeing the practicality at the same time makes a
Mm-hmm.
big difference because it becomes way more real.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a great answer to that. Like, how do I make, because as an entrepreneur, you don't know what you're going to deal with tomorrow. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know what you're going to deal with in 2 months. But it's a matter of like, how do I help build myself as a leader to be incredibly empathetic with my company and my
Mm-hmm.
team? How do I also make sure I'm prepared enough as things come up that I'm not confused or surprised by. I'm like, well, I've seen this before. Okay, how do I apply this thought process to it? But then also challenging myself to how do I become better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you've mentioned earlier, right? You have a family of four kids and a spouse. You're running this business. You have to spend some time learning. You're doing audiobooks and all sorts of stuff. So can you tell us a little bit about kind of the practical way you're managing your time so you can show up for your family and you also are available to deal with the challenges of the business and still invest in yourself to personally develop your own skills? How do you manage all of that?
That's a great question, actually. So I go to bed early. I go to bed at 9 p.m.
Wow, that's impressive.
So we put our kids down at 7. Just to walk through this fully practical. So we'll put our kids down at 7. I have an hour and a half plus, give or take, with my wife to like decompress, talk through the day without kids. Because if you have kids, trying to have a conversation is next to impossible because they're like, Mom, Dad, Mom, this, that, screaming, fighting, whatever. So we try to take at least an hour and a half of just us time. And she also wakes up early. So we go to bed 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then I wake up around 3:30.
Wow.
And that's the time where I get to go to the gym. I get to listen to audiobooks. I get to do things because what I feel like I'm doing at that time is I'm taking my own time. I'm not taking my kids' time. I'm not taking family time. My wife's still sleeping. My kids are still sleeping. And then for us, we work from 7 o'clock a.m. to 3 p.m. And so then I get to go home at 3 and be present with my kids until 7 until they go to bed. But I sacrifice 2 hours of sleep that my wife gets for that development because I choose to engage with my family versus it being me time. So I'd rather sleep less and take that time when they're not needing me.
That's very impressive that you actually are doing that, right? Giving up the sleep so you can actually find time during the day when they're actually more active, and so you can spend time with that. What about kind of your productivity hack in your business in terms of how do you structure your day so that you're not just always putting out fire, that you have time for proactive and most important things?
That's a great question. So there is a schedule that I run. I also am privileged enough to have an executive assistant. That was something that I invested in. I actually took some of my salary to help cover her because she is able to run a lot of things. She runs interference. I mean, I think she was the one that set up this interview, right? Like that's like she does so many things for me, and then is also able to control my day to day. I would say for me, one of the things that I found that it works best for me is how do I manage my inbox? For those that have emails, I get 300 to 400 emails a day. How do I manage the inbox? So either I control the inbox, the inbox controls me. But we use Google. You can do the same thing in Microsoft. I've opened folders, and so I if it's in my inbox, it's something I still have to do. And so if it's something I've already taken care of, I move it out of my inbox into a folder. So I still have all my emails, but I folded all the. And also, if I don't have time for it, but I know I still need to do it, I don't keep it in my inbox. I snooze it, and I say, "Come back to me tomorrow at 2 p.m. Come back to me tomorrow at 8 a.m." So I still do it. So for me to navigate my day is navigating my inbox. Then I have Slack, then I have phone calls and all those other things. But I've worked with my team saying, if it's really important, you have to email me. If it's in Slack, I'll get there. That's one of the things I look at secondary. But if it's in my inbox, it's something that I take care of.
Yeah, and like you said, I think people say email is somebody else's to-do list for you. So, and they're actually just sending you an email to do something. So obviously you touched on some of your systems and processes and how you've evolved over the years. And you also mentioned, if you had to do it all over again, one of the things that you would do is to start an entrepreneurial journey much earlier. But other than that, what would you have done differently knowing what you know today?
That's a hard question because, I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, right? Like, would I have been in the same business? I don't know, maybe. So I don't know how to answer that because I think everything is so... I'm a firm believer, like, you can be educated to the max, right? It's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's a matter of taking those opportunities with who you know through the relationships you've developed to get to what you know and what the next step is. Because anybody that I know that has got into a job that has meant much of anything is not based on their resume. It's based on a referral from a friend. So one, I'd say, if I roll back a little bit, the first thing is be actively thinking about what that business looks like. Like, realize that you can work for somebody, but you're going to be better off working by yourself. So one, as long as you can figure that out. And two, be open to conversations. Because once we started our first business, and we've had multiple since, because once you start seeing a need, fill it. And so if there's a hole that you think is out there, that means there's probably a need. And don't be afraid to take it. So I'm working alongside a buddy right now that's moving into his own business. He's like, but what do I do? I'm like, here's a few things. One, open the business legally. Like, just get it started. Like, get your paperwork done, get your tax, like, just get that done. It's gonna cost you $2,000 to $4,000, depending on the state you're in, at most. And second is start putting money aside in a bank account that you are planning on losing. So money that if the whole house burns on fire from your business, you're okay losing. You don't want to lose that money, but you're okay losing it, because if you start taking it from savings, mentally it changes you. But if you put this money away going, this is what we're like, a vacation fund, right? Like, oh, we're going to spend all this money on vacation. Did I spend $15 on an elephant ear? I did. Would I ever buy an elephant ear for $15 again? Probably not. But I was on vacation, but I had the money set aside. And so I encourage people to put money aside that you think is going to take to move forward, but be okay if you lose it in the process, and use that as backup income, use that as things that you didn't think about, but be okay knowing you could fail, and it's okay if you do fail, because when you fail, you actually learn something, and that will make you better for the next one.
And knowing what you know today, what would you tell that younger Josh Gibson?
If I could go back, I would have told myself, as important as work was and is, to find a better balance early on with my family. And I mean, you can work yourself to death, right? Like, I could work 20 hours a day, but when I'm gone, they're not going to be like, oh, he worked 18-hour days. The conversation is going to be, how is he as a dad? How is he as a father? How is he as a friend? They don't care about work. And so I would have prioritized that a little differently. Like what I'm doing right now, I'm waking up early so I can still be available. I would have done that differently, because what I was doing is working incredibly late and coming. And then the other part of that is being able to decompress once you're done with work. How do you not bring work fully home? Because if I come home and I'm in a bad attitude, my wife feels it, my kids feel it, and they don't really want me home. There's sometimes she's like, you should just stay at the office. Like, this is not fun for any of us. And so making sure that we can work for our own ego, we can work for money, but family is really where it's at. And if this is what you're doing, then be there for them and figure out how to partner with them, and not give everything where you come home and you got nothing left to give.
What a great message to end our conversation. I think that was certainly a eye-opening and convicting for me as well, because oftentimes I think at the expense of saying like, oh, I'm doing this for my family, working long hours, but obviously sometimes at the expense of, right, losing the relationship that you're trying to build with your family.
And you only have so much time. Like, there's not much time out there. So
exactly. So certainly enjoy this conversation, Josh. Thank you so much for sharing your life lessons and wisdom with my audience.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time.
Yes.
If you enjoyed this video, please share it. To make sure you never miss an episode, please subscribe.